This trade may not be huge, but it may have the ability to shake things up a bit for the Boston Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and yesterday was not a fun day to be a Red Sox fan. Ben Rice basically single-handedly dismantled the Red Sox pitching staff in the Bronx. However, after the game, the Boston Red Sox, around 9 o'clock last night, made a trade that may seem minor right now, but could have the ability to really shake things up for this Red Sox team. So what we are going to do in today's video is we are going to take a look at this trade. We're going to talk about who came in, who's going out, and why this could impact the 2024 club. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, about a couple hours after the Red Sox got done getting their balls kicked in by the New York Yankees, specifically Ben Rice, the Red Sox announced right around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time that they had traded for right-handed reliever Trey Wingenter, formerly of the Detroit Tigers now, and they gave up a guy by the name of CJ Wines, who was drafted just a couple of years ago by the Boston Red Sox. Actually, I think just last year. He's a right-handed prospect who at the time with the Red Sox was pitching in low A baseball to the tune of a 4.81 ERA. Didn't exactly appear on any Red Sox top 50 list. Now, getting back to the prospect or the player that the Red Sox picked up in this trade, Trey this season has spent most of his time, actually all of his time, with the Detroit Tigers AAA affiliate. And during that time, he has a 3.31 ERA in 32 2/3 innings, which really isn't all that bad. A 4.01 FIP, which is relatively higher than his ERA, meaning that he is pitching a bit worse on the mound than his ERA currently leads on. However, he has a pretty eye-popping 13.2 strikeouts per 9. That's missing a whole lot of bats whenever he's on the mound. Basically, right now he's striking out a third of every single batters he's facing at the AAA level. But it's also a really high walk rate too for a reliever at 4.7 per 9 innings, which is about 11% of the dudes he faced, which is probably a pretty big reason and probably plays a pretty big role as to why his FIP is about 0.7 runs higher than his ERA is this season. Now, Trey does have some major league experience, actually. He played parts of 3 seasons with the San Diego Padres and the Detroit Tigers. The San Diego Padres stint coming back in 2018 and 2019, and with the Tigers, he did appear in a major league uniform last year. During his time in Major League Baseball, it is an ERA at 5.28 with a 79 ERA plus, about 21% below league average production. Not exactly fantastic numbers for Trey at the major league level, but that also really isn't the full story here, because if you look at the rest of his statistics, this tells an entirely different story. The FIP is almost a run and a half lower at 3.82, meaning he was really well outperforming his ERA and was getting pretty unlucky on the mound out there. His overall strikeout rate, the big league level, is 32.3%, which means, again, taking a look at how that compares to what he's doing this year in AAA, it's about the same thing, right? He's striking out 1/3 of the batters he is currently facing, and the walk rate isn't pretty at 12.3% with an overall whip of 1.253, which may seem like a decent amount of traffic, but again, taking away the walk rate and the ERA and looking at the FIP and the strikeout rate, that's a pretty solid number. That's a number that you would expect a decent reliever in Major League Baseball to have, which makes Trey a really interesting pickup for this Red Sox team. If you just look at those numbers, like, it's essentially the tale of two different players, right? If you just look at the ERA and the walk rate, you're like, oh man, this guy kind of stinks. If you look at just the FIP and the strikeout rate, you're like, man, this guy's probably pretty good, which means he might have the ability to average out to be a decent reliever at the big league level. What's also really interesting about Trey is that last season with the Detroit Tigers, he had a 50% whiff rate on his slider last year. For reference, Tanner Houck, that dude who has a really good slider in the Red Sox rotation, yeah, his whiff rate is at 29%. Trey basically doubled Tanner Houck's whiff rate this year on his slider last season. That's really impressive, and it is in only 17 games, so it is a pretty small sample size in terms of the swing and miss rate on Trey's slider, but there's a lot of potential there with a guy who's missing essentially every other swing that gets swung at his slider, and he's carried that over into 2024, where in the minor leagues, he's also had a 49% swing and miss rate or whiff rate on his slider, which is really, really impressive. Honestly, personally, Trey's a really interesting pickup in my eyes. The Red Sox clearly see something in Trey's ability that they think they can tweak and manufacture into a decent major league reliever. And to be honest with you, I kind of believe them, not only because the Red Sox have done that a couple of times with a couple of different players for certain stretches throughout this 2024 season, but also because just looking at Trey's statistics, yeah, I think there could be something here, especially if the Red Sox figure out a way to allow him to limit his walks. His arsenal looks pretty good. The slider we talked about is pretty deadly. He's got a fastball that sits around 99 miles an hour. However, that is fairly hittable right now, and he is developing a splitter as well. You get all three of those things working, and yeah, I could see how the arsenal could play at the major league level, and that is one thing that the Red Sox have done a really solid job of improving basically all throughout their system, especially at the major league level, limiting walks. The Red Sox major league team does a great job for the most part of keeping people off base, and if the Red Sox can do that with a guy like Trey, he could end up being a really interesting piece for the Boston Red Sox. Now, you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, Corbin, this is all fine and good, but this is a minor league deal. Trey has not played an inning of Major League Baseball right now. The Red Sox clarified it as a minor league deal. Why does this have any implication on the Major League team? Well, let me tell you exactly why. But before I do that, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content we are putting out. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let me explain why this may impact the Red Sox. The reason this may end up having a pretty immediate impact on the 2024 Red Sox is because of a contract clause in Trey's contract with the Tigers. According to Chris Cotillo of Mass Live, part of Trey's deal with the Detroit Tigers comes with an assignment clause, which means that for the Red Sox who traded for him, he now needs to be added to the Red Sox 40-man roster within the next couple of days. What that means is that over the next couple of days, the Red Sox are going to have to decide how they're going to fit him on the 40-man roster. They don't have any open spots right now. There is a possibility they move someone over to the 60-day IL, but that would mean starting major league time. A guy like Brian Walter or Luis Perales would be candidates there, but again, you don't really want to waste their major league time on a 60-day IL stint. You've got DFA candidates certainly somewhere in this 40-man roster. I would think guys like Uwasawa or Brad Keller immediately come to mind for Red Sox fans, and I'm sure they come to mind for the Red Sox front office as well. And then the third option here is that we see a trade at some point in the next couple of days to make room for Trey on the Red Sox 40-man roster. Now, in my opinion, the most likely situation here is that we do see a DFA of either Uwasawa or Brad Keller in order to get Trey onto the 40-man roster. The other implication here that this contract clause has is that the Red Sox probably aren't trying to keep Trey at the minor league level for a very long period of time. I think there's a very real possibility, especially since the last couple of, I would even say, weeks, the Red Sox bullpen's been used a whole lot, and we're starting to see the effects of that, i.e. a Ben Rice 3-home run game and the Red Sox losing by 10 runs in the Bronx over these last couple of games. I think there's a very real possibility, both because of this assignment clause and because of the fact that the Red Sox bullpen has been really taxed over the last couple of weeks, that we see Trey in a Red Sox uniform very quickly here, especially if the Red Sox have a legitimate plan as to how they're going to help control his walk rate. Because again, if he could do that, could possibly have a place on this major league club. Now, I like this trade, or I really like these types of trades for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is because, to be honest with you, this is a really low risk trade. What you gave up wasn't really anything that was immediately or really in the next couple of years going to have a massive impact on this Red Sox team. And if Trey ends up being someone really good, well, the Red Sox are really smart for doing that. If he doesn't, well, the Red Sox didn't give too much up. It's not entirely a win-win situation because you did give up a prospect to get Trey to the Boston Red Sox, but it's not exactly a win-lose situation either. It's a very low-risk, high-reward trade for this Red Sox team. The other reason I really like this deal is because it just goes to show, and we've talked about this a couple of times on this channel, how willing the Red Sox are to manipulate the bottom of this roster. Now, I know that a lot of people look at these types of trades and they immediately say, oh, they're dumpster diving again. This is a nothing burger. But a lot of the times, especially in the bullpen, those nothing burgers turn to really important pieces, especially with this Red Sox team over the last couple of years. Brandon Bernardino was one of those dumpster dive pickups. Cam Boozer was a guy who was signed out of independent baseball. Even Justin Slayton, to some degree, was a small, at the time, felt meaningless trade for the Boston Red Sox, and all three of those guys have ended up in pretty important roles in this Red Sox bullpen to varying degrees. Those are the type of things that differentiate a mediocre team from a really good team. And I could give you more proof of that because just look at the last couple of years for the Red Sox. Chris Martin went down last year. Hey, you probably were bringing up Caleb Ort or Joe Jakes or Ryan Brazier, guys who just simply could not pitch at the major league level. Chris Martin goes down this year, and you've got Cam Boozer there to pick up the slack, who had a pretty important role in the win in the first game of the Yankees series, and overall has been statistically even a little bit better than Chris Martin so far this year. Depth is usually the difference between those mediocre baseball teams and those above average baseball teams, and I really like the fact that Craig Breslow in this front office is continuously tinkering with those final roster spots to figure out, hey, what's the best combination for this Red Sox team? What's going to give them the ability to win the most games? Is that someone from outside the organization in these quote-unquote dumpster dive trades that we can pull something out of, a diamond in the rough? Is that someone from our minor league system that we can tweak and throw in the back end of this bullpen and really sort of get some important innings out of, like Bailey Horn gave us in the first game of that Yankees series, right? The Red Sox have done a really solid job at doing that this year, and I think this is just another example of that. So look, at the end of the day, I totally understand that a lot of the comments on this video are either going to have something to do with dumpster diving, digging through the trash, or this being a small, insignificant trade. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is all that, but it could also end up being extremely beneficial for the Red Sox. He doesn't even need to be good for an entire season. He doesn't need to end up being a Bernardino or a Cam Boozer. He could be good for 3 weeks and then blow it up, and the Red Sox start this process all over again, and that's still beneficial to this Red Sox team. That's how low risk this trade is, and that's why I really like it so much. I'm not expecting Trey to come up here. A lot of people, when I make videos like this, think I'm expecting this guy to win a Cy Young as a reliever. No. I'm just expecting him to have some impact on the big league club, which I do think should be coming in the next few days, even the next couple of weeks. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, is this just a simple dumpster dive that you think will have no effect on the Boston Red Sox? Or are you like me, sitting there saying the metrics outside of his ERA at the big league level look pretty intriguing? I'm curious to see what the Red Sox can do with them and if he can make an impact on this team, and I am really curious as to how they fit him on this roster. Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox trade in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Sox almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just helps out a ton, and it's the best way you can let me know you enjoy the content we are putting out. Don't forget, you can always get these episodes available in podcast form if you want to listen on the go. You can get those links either in my description to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can head over to your favorite podcasting app and just simply look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Hopefully the Sox can pull it out tonight, and I will see you in the Red Seats.